right, got my 45 on here. Then I went ahead and making my angle coming up. All right, so yesterday I got the top radiator tubing hoses all in place, and today I just did this bottom one. Kind of comes around here. This was a lot simpler. The other one wasn't bad either, just trying to get the angles right and trying to figure out what to do with this guy right here. But that one wasn't too bad either. So yeah, this one's done, and I did have to notch out here. The aluminum was actually touching the rubber, and I don't think that would fly over time. But anyway, I didn't want anything touching right here. I'll see how the cowling transitions over to this area. I could still put a plate, like a very thin aluminum sheet, a couple rivets, 4 rivets, oh, maybe 5 or 6, and on the outside of that, and that would prevent that from touching there and still seal that area up. But we'll kind of see what the airflow looks like going through there before we do any more to this part. Right now I'm just kind of playing around where I want all my hoses. There's a radiator vent hose. Here's my main fuel line hose. I'm thinking about routing it right in the middle there into that little channel there. Put some wire loop, or put some loom on it. Then there's a gearbox vent tube as well. So all that's going to eventually go to the firewall. Need to mount these vent boxes. It doesn't matter. I think they're pretty much the same. One is for vent for the gearbox oil. Next one's for the coolant. I was messing with the air filter as well. I just want to get a part number on that, RU-0800. Not sure which one's a part number, but there's that one as well. All right, here's the air filter. It seemed to stick out where it was hitting my engine mount a little bit, so I went ahead and took about this much off and show you where it goes on the engine. Here's the throttle right here. So that'll eventually be the throttle, and it'll go actually on that guy right there. And we're going to stick that on there, and it was hitting this part of the engine mount here, so we're going to see if it better. And there's my air filter mounted. As you can see, it's not really touching. I don't know if you can see that or not. Not really touching that bar anymore. It was touching that engine mount, but that's clearing everything just fine. Today I'm going to install my temperature probes from GRT, and I'm going to have my gearbox temperature, coolant temperature, and oil pressure, and this is the one that goes on my fuel pressure. Those are the 3 main ones, and we have the little red cube underneath the fuselage for fuel flow. All right, for the coolant sensor, it's going to go on this guy right there. This is where the coolant sensor is going to go, right where that little brass plug is right there. And I think I'm going to go ahead and just take that off, put my sensor on, put this unit back on there. All right, here's a piece I took off, and that's where it came from right there. And this little white part right there is just a sensor, just snap. This guy just came right off, just pushing that down right there. And that little sensor came off, and I cleaned up that area to make it, got some of the leftover sealant off of it. And you can see this one, I haven't touched this side yet. I'll go ahead and take some of that sealant off of this as well, make it nice and smooth. Install my probe, put some right stuff sealant on there, torque her back down, and we'll be done with the coolant sensor at that point. All right, I have the coolant temp sensor in place. Now put this piece back on, put some sealant on it, torque these down to 110 inch-pounds. And here you can see the coolant temp wire. I went ahead and connected it now because it's such a tight squeeze in there, it'd be kind of hard to after that. I just measured out a wire using 20 gauge Tefzil wire, and just measured it and put a little label on there. I'm not sure if you can see that or not, but anyway, coolant temp. There it is. And next will be the gearbox temperature. And this will be a lot easier. We're just going to take this guy off and put some 567 thread sealant. Put my temp probe in here, run another line parallel to that one, and label that. And I got it going down the middle along with the other one. Last thing is the oil pressure, which I'm going to take that little guy off right there, being careful not to turn this one. So take that off, put my little oil pressure unit in there, and wire that, we'll be done. Alrighty, got that guy in place. And I've always wondered what size these guys are, because you never know what to order. These are number 8 rings, fit that perfectly. And it goes over here, like that. And then this little screw thing goes on top of that. So number 8 ring fits that. All right, gonna make a hole in the firewall. And the reason for that is I need to make an opening for these guys to pass through. They're not exactly small. They're approximately, I don't know, 2.5 inches or so each. I'm gonna try to make a hole. I used a fly cutter just so you can get an outline. I'm gonna end up using my Forstner bits. 2-inch hole is the best I can do with that. Enlarge it just a little bit so I can get those guys in there. And I plan on making a pass through with another piece of metal on the outside, plus some of my baffling here. I'm gonna put some slices in it, and that's gonna kind of give me a little an area that I can actually seal up the firewall to some degree, better than it is. I'm gonna make a plate for the outside of this, but we'll get to that here in a little while. All right, there's my first ring with the Forstner bit. That's 2 inches. And then you can see the outer ring I scored with the fly cutter. I just need to look in the toolbox or in the Dremel tool cutters and see what I have where I can enlarge that to the other part. And there's my engine pass through. I still have my oil pressure and my 2 temperature sensors. I'm gonna put that in some wire loom and we'll pass it through there as well. Shouldn't take up much room there. And that's what it looks like on the other side. So we'll see if that works.